Running Sentences presents Poli, a literary episodic story. Copyright 2020 Running Sentences podcast. This is a work of fiction. All of the names, characters, businesses, places, events, and/or incidences are a product of my imagination and are used in a silly, fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual people, living dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Episode 1. A New Job at Art. The tides of change have come to this small, sleepy state government. An old force has left and retired from the State Art Council, leaving it open to be filled by the recently elected governor. His choice was a rather unorthodox one, that being a state legislature member who doesn't know much about art. George, the chief state whip of his particular party, sits in an elegant but homely little office that he had been assigned to. Across from George sits Morgan Hook, looking rather nervous, though trying his best not to look like he was, but his constant shifting in his seat gave him away. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Hook." "Well, Whip, I didn't have a choice. The party called, especially you, and I have to come running." "Yes, it is a rather nice power to have. And all thanks to the recent election results. I have been put in power here, and I have to sort out the loyal party members. And now that we have power, especially in the form of the governor and the legislature, I'd like to offer you a position. I'm honored that you thought of me." Good. That is what we need. People willing to take on jobs. Your task is to run the State Arts Council, which is in much need of shaping and trimming." Hook glanced about the room to see if a prank was being played on him or if this was all some sort of joke. When no one jumped out yelling, "Prank!" his glance returned to George, who was giving off a bit of a false smile. "I see. It isn't the grandest of assignments, but for our young career it can make you. Why, the former Arts Council Commissioner was of our party, and he rose to control the arts of this state to perfection." That sounds fine. I have this fear that it will interfere with my regular obligations with the state senate and all of the committees, and I don't want that. Ignoring this, George had risen from his chair, offering his hand as a congratulations. Hook also rose, not sure what else to do, and shook George's hand. "Of course you'd be afraid of that. It will work out just fine, and you can easily do both. Everyone I know does 2 jobs and 3 jobs when they work at the state senate. This is just another little paper-pushing job. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a bit of work to do. Other positions do need to be filled." "I understand. I guess I'll see you on the Senate floor." As Hook exited the room, he took one last glance around to make sure it wasn't all a joke. It wasn't. He found himself leaving confused. George, however, smiled at the retreating sight and then rolled his eyes at the silliness of Morgan Hook, then returned to his work as he sat down. The Art Council was hidden away from view in an unremarkable government building, along with many other state offices. The reason for this was that the government did not want people to see what was going on with their government buildings. Plus, it was drab. In the hallway of the Art Council offices, Lawrence Young stood. He was nervous and trying to stand upright, but with his slight tall frame, his body never quite took to standing up straight. He was outside of the meeting room waiting for Alice Jacob to come out. After a few seconds of this and a few foot shuffles, the door opened and Alice, a woman around her early 30s and businesslike in all appearances, slipped out and waved him over. "Ah, Lawrence, how are you?" "I'm good, I think. What is it you wanted to see me about?" "We have had a vacancy come up, and we think you would be perfect for it. It's happened because of the shift in governors and the old one going out and our commissioner deciding it's time to retire before he can get fired by the new governor." "Oh, I see. Yes, change has come to this little sleepy office, and we need a new secretary, which we think you'd be perfect for it. Would you be interested in it?" "I've never been a secretary before. I don't know." "It'll be fine. You'll be fine, and we'll deal with it. There's no need to be nervous about it." "Do you know who our new master is going to be?" No, I haven't been told anything." "We have a politician this time around, Morgan Hook. Doesn't know anything about arts, but we can deal with that. What your job is going to be is not so much as a secretary, but to keep him out of the way of running the department. Do you understand? I no, but I think so, but, no, nothing. Don't worry about it. Just do as I need you to do and it'll be fine. I'll help you out, of course. But we have to keep this politician busy. Our jobs depend on the running of this office with as little fuss as possible. We just need to keep this politician busy. And I'll, of course, help you with any way I can. I guess I am all in then. Good. You're coming up on your 2-month anniversary, if I remember. Yeah, I'm taking your secretary job, but I don't know if I want to stay. Oh, you will. Once you reach that 3rd month, the sludge of the civil service just grabs a hold of you and brings you down. You'll never be able to leave unless pushed very hard, like the previous secretary. A beeping noise came from her purse, and she slid that open, fishing around for her cell phone. Upon getting it out, she looked. The screen had a warning on it that the commissioner was due to come in at any moment. Now, we have some bigger issues to deal with. We have to go greet our new boss, our new master. This should be fun. She abruptly turned and headed down the hallway. Lawrence, who had been standing there, trying to figure out what to do, realized that he probably should come along and hurried after her. Morgan Hope pulled his car into the parking lot of the unremarkable state government building. He made a beeline for the front row of parking spots and quickly found one that was marked for the Art Council Commissioner. Pleased at the sight, he pulled his car into the spot and parked. Hurriedly, he got out of his car and headed straight for the entrance of the building. He didn't want to waste any more time and be later than he already was. However, at the front door, he paused to look at his own reflection and straightened himself up a little bit before entering. Upon entering, Hook found himself in the building lobby, with ample room on either his left or his right, and right in front of him was a security building with 2 people standing behind the security desk, and a further security person standing at that desk. This, Hook figured, was probably his secretary and somebody else, or somebody from the department. As Hook came into the lobby, Alice and Lawrence, who had been near the security desk, waiting for him, reacted and headed straight over. Hook, on the other hand, was eyeing the security desk suspiciously. It didn't look right. Good afternoon, Commissioner Hook. I am Alice Jacobs, and I will be helping you run the civil service side of this council. This is your secretary, Lawrence Young, who is assigned to help you complete your goals here at the Art Council. Lawrence, who'd waddled up and looked awkwardly around. Hook's eyes were still fixed on the security booth, and then he pointed at it. Why do we have security? Has someone threatened the artists and the civil servants, and they feel like they need to protect them? Security is required at all state buildings. You should know this as a state senator. We want to make sure that everyone feels safe, as we have several departments here, and the outside hordes can be very angry at times. Are there outside hordes? It's been known to happen, mostly I think in France, when they feel like no one is paying attention to them. Yes, that makes sense. The French do love a good protest. The French love a good everything if you aren't careful, Commissioner. Alice glared at Lawrence for a second for his little aside. Anyway, if you'll step up to the security desk, we'll get you a temporary pass, and then we will set up a permanent one in your new office, if that's okay with you. Yeah, let's get this over with. She led him over to the security desk, where the security guard took a quick, awful photo of him. A few seconds later, he was handed a slip of paper to act as his temporary security pass. The 3, Alice, Lawrence, and Hook, then trundled over to the elevators to head on up. The elevator ride was a short and sweet one. They were soon on the floor which contained the Art Council, and heading down the hallway straight for Hook's office. Alice led the way, with Morgan Hook following and Lawrence wandering behind. Alice charged right into what would be Hook's office, and then stood aside to let him in. He, however, stopped in the doorway and stared. The office had been stripped bare except for the carpet and the wallpaper. He took a few more steps in, and Lawrence followed him in. He continually looked about the empty office in shock. Where is my office? I don't have anything here. Yes, you'll need to get a desk and a chair. The previous ones were on loan from the State Department of Education. Once they'd learned that the old commissioner was on their way, they whisked them back to their offices. It was quite the heist, Commissioner. We were all celebrating at the going-away party for the old commissioner, right here in the Art Council, right down the hallway at the meeting room. They just swept past us and took everything that was theirs. We didn't notice because we were too busy. And they walked past you. Yeah, they kind of walked past us. I mean, it was quite the party, so we didn't notice. Sorry, I don't know if we could have stopped them either, but, how nice for them. Why didn't they contact me and ask me if I was in need of a desk? And why haven't you gotten a desk? Well, that's the situation we have to deal with. You see, the former honorable commissioner was well known to the education people. Thus, they would lend the desk to him. But I don't think they know you, or they don't care to know you, or I don't know what's going on with them, but I'm only guessing here. And you might not have the same connections as our old commissioner, so they didn't ask. Well, let's deal with the desk, my desk, then. Why didn't you get a new desk for me? You can have room in the budget and everything. Yes, that's part of our problems we're having to deal with. The sudden stealing of the desk happened right under our noses, and we didn't have time to get a new desk up here. Thankfully, the state has decided it likes to keep the stuff it buys, even the really old stuff. I believe there are many old desks in storage, maybe even from the 50s, that tucked away. For now, we will probably be able to get one up from storage for you, and a chair as well. Next is the budget, and normally, yes, there is room for the so-called Commissioner's First Office. And there's a button in there. Since there was a lot of back and forth and upheaval during the switchover between one government party to the next, we didn't get a budget approved. And we haven't submitted one yet, and we have to hurry with that. Oh, great. What a pickle they've put me into. Just throw me to the wolves, why don't they? Well, get me a desk and a chair, and once we have those, I can work. But for today, I don't know if, without them, it doesn't make sense. And I have some other things I need to attend to as well. Commissioner, there is the security badge that we still need to get done, the permanent one. Yeah, let's go do that then. Hook, a little bit sad and frustrated by what had been such a great start to his art council career, exited the office with his shoulders a little bit slumped. Alice looked over at Lawrence, and then they both headed after him. Upon exiting his new office, Hook managed to make it about halfway down the hallway, about towards the meeting room, when he was intercepted by a pair of security guards. They were carrying a bunch of technology in their arms and signaled that they were headed into the conference room. Hook graciously opened the door for them, and they went in, and he followed in. As Alice and Lawrence stepped out of Hook's new office, they saw him heading into the meeting room. She nodded her approval at this sight, and then headed towards Lawrence's new desk, which wasn't far away from the door to Hook's office. Lawrence trailed a little bit behind, looking around, trying to figure out what else he was to do today. Good. Security can deal with Commissioner for a minute. I want you, Lawrence, to get on the phone to storage and get a desk out here for tomorrow. They should be able to deal with that at the very least. Yeah, I can do that, but, I don't have a phone number for them. I could look it up, though. Alice seemed to have not heard him and grabbed a piece of paper and a pen off of the desk and scribbled a phone number onto it. She handed it over to him. There you go. One phone number to get a desk. Now, I need to go make sure that Hook isn't up to no good. She hurried off down the hallway. She entered the conference room to find Hook pressed against the wall, once again getting his photo taken. Everything going well, Commissioner? The two security guards quietly worked their equipment until the printer began to hum and create a new security pass. Yes, and about my desk? We should have a temporary one up tomorrow. Lawrence is working on that as we speak. He should be able to get something for you. Good, that's good to hear. Now, I suppose I should ask, what are our pressing issues at this department? I really want to get a hold of things and plunge forward to create a great art council. Well, our budget is our biggest concern. Without that, we have no art. Okay. I expected there to be a bit more, but we will attend to that tomorrow, and I expect to see you come up with some budgets or something for me to look at. But if that is all, I think I should get back to my state senate meetings and see what's going on over there. The security team had finished up the new ID pass to allow Hook in and out of the building and handed it over to him. He snatched it away and headed out of the room without saying anything else. Alice shook her head at the sight and turned to the security people. "Thank you for your help today." She then exited the conference room to leave the security guards to clean up their mess. After the early morning day at the Art Council, Hook had gone to the state senate offices to see what he could do. Mostly meetings with people that never went anywhere, and then talking to state senators that never went anywhere either. He spent much of the day there doing that and trying to find a way to get out of that, but it wasn't until the night that he could retire back to his private state senate office. It was there that we find him, eating some Chinese food to try and catch up on what had happened, but not much had happened. There was a knock on his office door, and Bertie Lindell, a friend and like-minded politician, popped through before Hook could say enter. "Hello, I thought I'd stop by and see how things are getting along. I heard you got the Art Council." Hook sat back in his chair, trying to take in the sight. "Yes, it's not as nice as I thought it would be, but it is a job that I hope will help my career." "You look kind of glum, though. Why?" "The Department of Education stole the Art Council desk that was to be in my office." "Why did they do that? And they can do that?" "Well, it was theirs to begin with, apparently. But it has left me with no desk and barely a department to run, so they can't work with no desk." "Oh, well, I do know a few of those guys and gals who work over at Education. Would you like me to get them to give you the desk back?" If you could do that, that'd be very kind of you. But what do I owe you in return?" Bertie rushed over to take a seat across from Hook, looking pleadingly at him. "I'm glad you asked. I have a grand new bill that needs support." "What's the bill?" "Well, it's a bit difficult to explain in 1 or 2 sentences. I'll just have my secretary send it over." "Fine. Send it along to my secretary. It will get read, and then if I can support it and it doesn't conflict with my constituents' wants and needs, you have my support." Bertie jumped up from his chair and grabbed Hook's hand, giving it a hearty shake, and then ran out of the room. Hook was surprised by the suddenness of it all, but shook it off and then went back to eating and looking over paperwork that was all too boring. Hook arrived at the Art Council office the next morning and found a desk sitting in his office. He stood in the doorway for a second and then carefully approached it. It was a child's school desk, a type where the desk itself is attached to the seat by a metal bar. It was not the one he wanted, and it was not the one he would have chosen, but it was a desk, and he did his best to sit down in it. It wouldn't let him get in easily. Not the slightest bit pleased with the state of this, he glared over at Lawrence, who'd come in. Lawrence, for his effort, made it look like it wasn't his fault and shuffled his feet as Alice also came in holding files and briskly ignoring the silly sight. "Ah, you have a new desk. Good, we can work on the budget then." Get on work on the budget? Do you see what I'm sitting on? How can I concentrate when I'm being treated like a kid? But it is a desk, and it's the best storage could do on short notice, I hope. On the bright side, Commissioner, the desk might not be from the 50s as Miss Jacob originally guessed. It doesn't matter what era it came from. I need a decent desk to work from. To that end, I asked a friend to get me the desk from the Department of Education. It's better than this. They're going to give it back. Oh, no, you didn't. What? I did. What's wrong with that, Out with it. The desk and the chair are old, and they need special care. That special care comes out of our budget. We cannot afford the upkeep. Well, it's already been settled. It is coming here to stay. We shall see about that. Did you say something? We shall need to get to the budget now. I have several proposals for you. Alice walked over and handed Hook 4 reports, which he briefly looked at the tops of. I shall look these over, but I need to do it alone. Go away. I'm sure you have work to do. As you wish. Alice and Lawrence exit the room, closing the door behind them. Hook picked up one of the folders with a deep sigh and started looking through it. He was not very pleased with the way things were going today. He took a few minutes glancing through the files, picking at them as best as he could, but he was unable to get comfortable in This sort of distracted him from his work. He gave up on the desk and wrestled himself out of its clutches and proceeded to stand to read over the files. His face grew more and more annoyed with each page on the differing proposals. It didn't take him long to decide that these wouldn't do, and he needed to do something. Hook opened the door to his office and peeked out to make sure that Miss Jacobs wasn't around, but that Lawrence was. When he saw the coast was clear, he leaned out of his office towards Lawrence. Psst! Lawrence looked over at Hook and then back to his work. I said, psst! Lawrence glanced over once again and met Hook's eyes to see that he wanted to talk to him. Oh, you wanted to talk to me. I just sort of figured you were trying to talk to some sort of bug. Why would I be trying to talk to a bug? I don't know. People do weird things. Like my aunt. She's weird stuff. She's way weird. Forget about that. I need some help with these budget proposals. Yeah, sure. What can I do for you? All of these proposals increase the budget of the council. I can't have that. Why not? Shouldn't you want a growing and boisterous council to rule over? Alice, having exited her office, came up behind Hook on the scene. Lawrence also failed to notice that she was there. It's my party's wish that the budget gets cut where we can. The governor wished it to be so, and thus it will be. I have to hold the line. And by doing so, cut your job off at the knees. You'll be out of the council the second the budget was approved, and the council will be absolved. Hook jumped at the sound of her voice and put on a determined face as he turned to face her. No, it won't. That is not true at all. I know for a fact that I will be rewarded for good behavior and helping to balance the budget. You do know that this is not a typical place for political appointees, right? No? It's because no politician wants to be stuck in a job that has no elevator up. It's the end of the line for most people. If this post is gone, then you will return to the nothing Senate job, useful only for closing offices. You'll carry a black mark. It isn't that bad, is it? I don't think you'll get the desk you wanted if that's the case. Hook and Alice both glanced over at Lawrence, who shrunk back a bit and returned to looking at his computer. Look, I have to draw the line somewhere, and I cannot have budgets going up. We will simply have to find a way to make things work. As you wish. Hook slipped back into his office and slammed the door for good effect. Little else would happen for the day, which was marked by the usual business of looking at contracts and signing them and moving them along. The commissioner stayed busy glaring at paperwork and budget proposals without actually getting done. Lawrence spent his day trying to hide at his desk, and Alice did the paperwork except for one minor telephone call to the head of the civil service. She organized a meeting for later that night at a fine dining establishment. That night, she and Dean Haven, ever sharp and very pointy head of the civil service, were enjoying a fancy meal, although she wanted to talk about something, but she was unsure if she should. What's on your mind, Jacobs? You don't usually ask me out to dinner like this. Is it your new person in charge that's causing problems? Commissioner Hook wishes to cut the budget, but also insists on having that old barge of a desk back. Education took the desk back? They did. And how did your new leader take to this? Like most politicians, they cried and whinged about having something suitable for their use. Well, there'll never cease to be an endless ball of amusement to me. So are you going to give him the desk back? I've been trying to get rid of it. I don't want it back, and we don't have the budget for it. The commissioner won't act without a budget or a desk. Then give him a small win. Get a new desk and a chair. Make them comfy ones. But let me finish. You have hidden funds in the safety fund in case of whatever you need. This is one of those times to spring a few dollars loose to keep someone happy. Yes, that might work. But what if the press find out? Anytime they find out somebody's spending money. Oh, because the fund is set up to just offer emergency money. I believe it's as long as it's, say, under $6,000, you won't need to make a big report about it. Then that would leave the budget. Yes, I'm sure you'll come to think of something, or some sort of compromise that you'll have to do. Probably deal with the desk. They returned to eating their food, both happy with the ideas that they have presented. The two passed a pleasant rest of the evening by barely bothering to talk to one another, and left on gracious terms with a handshake, the bill paid for by the state civil service credit line. The next morning, Hook marched into his office and found two desks that had been placed across from one another in a sort of stare-down, if one believes that an inanimate object can do such things. One is an old-looking wreck of a thing that had been salvaged and held together on dreams and more than enough glue. It also contained one or two missing chunks from it. The other, a brand-new state-of-the-art sleek plywood thing. It was dressed nicely to make one think it was nicer than it actually was. Alice stood between the two desks, admiring her work when Hook came in. "What's this?" "Desks, sir." "I realize that. What I want to know is why are there two?" "These two desks represent the choice you'll have to make. One is from the Department of Education, the other is new. One of them will draw scrutiny for the expenses it costs, aka the old one. The other is a simple desk. And the catch? I just told you that it will harm your budget and cut it down. The other will not." Good. So the old desk it is, then." "That would not be wise." "How? Why? Because you said so? Get this newfangled desk out of here. I have what I need." Alice looked at him crossly as he moved over to sit down behind the old desk with a satisfied look. "Oh yes, and bring me new drafts of the budget proposal. We need to tackle this before it gets out of hand and the state doesn't give us any money." "I will do that." She exited the office with a roll of her eyes, and with her gone, Hook rubbed his hands over the old desk, which promptly results in a splinter. As he tries to withdraw his hand from sudden and sharp pain, he bangs his elbow and then his knee against the desk. In shock and surprise, he slowly backs away. Alice had stormed out of Hook's office furious. Lawrence, who was at his desk playing on the computer, looked over and then looked back at his computer, trying not to get involved, and then realizing he probably had to. "Is there something wrong? Do I need to go help the commissioner?" The fool can only think of the old desk. "I need to find a way to get rid of that old thing." "I see. Why do you need to?" "Our budget goes down the drain maintaining that thing." "Which would you rather have? A busy office working on art, or a busy office maintaining an old desk?" "Well, I guess the first one would be the right option." "Good. Now we need a plan to show him the desk is bad. Something to shock him out of his stupor." "Shouldn't our first concern be the budget, though?" Alice was too deep in thought to notice what he had said at first, but then came around a second later with a surprised look on her face. "Oh, it is my concern. But yep, I think I have a good idea of what I need to do now." "What?" Alice, however, had run off down the hall to her own office. Upon reaching her office, she headed over to her filing cabinet and pulled open a top drawer. "Old budgets, where are you?" She thumbed her way through a bunch of files until she came across one, and took it out to read it. Without realizing it as she read the file, she had started walking over to her desk to sit down. "Aha! This is what I need." She put the file to the side on her desk and woke up her computer with a few clicks. After the computer had woken up and she had logged in, she clicked a few apps and started up her budget program and began looking for files on that as well. "And now to look up the specialized requirements set aside in this budget." She glanced between the two files, the one on her desk and the one on her computer. The site and the numbers looked just about right. Yes. The desk is a good thing. I can make a good case out of getting rid of it. Later that day, as Hook was getting ready to leave for the night, Alice entered carrying a new folder. The new desk was off in the corner waiting for the movers to come by to pick it up. "Ah, Commissioner, I'm so glad I caught you before you left. I have a new budget proposal for you as you requested." She walked over and gently set it onto the edge of the desk and stepped back. "Does it cut the budget?" "There are a few quirks, but it should play out in an interesting manner. I think you'll like it. Or, you'll see anyway. I should head home for the night. Good night." She walked out of the office, leaving Hook to look over the folder that she plopped onto the corner. He reached out tentatively for the folder, trying his best not to get caught by the desk. Happy to have defeated the desk, Hook tried to celebrate with a little jig of a dance in a chair. This only resulted in him kicking the desk a few times. Surprised at what had happened, he carefully backed away from his desk, hoping that it would not strike back at him, and then rushes over to his coat on the coat rack, and soon he's out of the office. Making it safely home from the office, he headed straight from his car to his home office to study the proposal. His home office, like many, is nicely furnished with all comfort in mind and not really meant for work. The sight, while welcoming, felt a little sad to him as he glanced around and sat down in his chair. Go from one office to another, and the only thing that changes is the view outside. Beginning to feel like this is some odd experimental prison. He set aside his thoughts and opened the proposal to read. A few seconds into reading, he discovers that the proposal cuts his commissioner's salary to pay for the maintenance of the desk. He starts to reread and frantically search for his cell phone. Why would you cut my salary? He sets aside the proposal on the desk and fumbles with his phone, trying to get the contacts list up. He manages this after a few seconds of fumbling. Jacobs, where are you? Oh, come on, contacts. And she isn't in my contacts list. Dang. Oh, I'll have to wait for the morning. He turns off his phone and tosses it gently onto the desk. The open proposal still stares at him, and so he slaps the manila folder closed and rubs his face. Work, and more work, and none of the thanks. Tired of working for the day and how much it had frazzled his mind, he gently rose from the chair and plodded out of the office to head to bed for the night. Morning rolled around and Hook came into the office bright and early. As he entered his office, he found that the two desks were still there. The old wreck of a desk still in its spot, holding its place. The new one still waiting in the corner to be taken away. He headed for the old desk, but carefully, trying best not to touch it for fear of injury. After settling into the creaky chair and doing his best to avoid touching anything, Alice entered the office with a polite knock. He glared at her. Why don't I have your phone number? I did not think it would be necessary for our work. No great emergencies happen here, and we don't feel like we need to carry our work home. That is, unless you intend to cause some emergencies. I don't intend to cause emergencies. I'm not a problem person. I want to know what's up with this budget. It is unacceptable. You cannot cut my pay just to pay for this desk. Did you see what the cut was for? Yes, the desk. It's a beautiful desk, and I want to keep it, but not cut my pay. Why can't you cut yours? Per my union, we are not allowed to cut civil service pay unless it's a dire emergency. And even then, it's out of my hands. It's up to the state to do it. Setting the budget is just simply not an emergency. That leaves you. But why can't we find the money elsewhere? Well, you can find the money by increasing our budget, but I don't think you want to do that. Our only other option aside from that is to get rid of the desk. Lawrence, meanwhile, came in and walked over towards Hook and stood just behind him, looking like he wanted to say something. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was not happy this morning. Never mind the traffic. Nobody cares about that. How does getting rid of a desk? Free budget. Taking care of the desk takes up our budget since it's a historic item, and the state ordered anybody who has a historic item in their department must be taken care of by that department. It's something to do with being the joy and pride of all of the state. This desk in particular is being looked after because it has something to do with pride and joy of the capital's first woodworking shop or something. Lawrence took another step forward, looking surprised. Is that why the office hasn't seen a pay raise in a good 2 years or so that I heard from one of the other people? Something like that, yes. Much of the funding went to the commissioner's pay and the desk. Well, it's a good desk. It's a nice desk. It's just... Weren't you complaining to me yesterday that it out to harm you and left you with a sliver or something like that, Commissioner? Well, of course you can keep it. We're not against you keeping it per se. Just that You can free up money and make it look like you cut the budget if you get rid of it. Hook stares at the desk, and then Alice, and then the desk, trying to decide what to do. Lawrence scratches his nose and looks to Alice as well. You know, I was invited to my first secretary's lunch thing the other day, and desks came up and how offices have them, and historical items. There's a couple of historical desks in different departments, and perhaps not as bad as this one, though. And this one did come up, and it apparently has quite a history. Yes, we know it has history. It's a historical item, historical artifact, whatever you want to call it. Yes, but the story that the secretaries told me was that it was made at an old woodwork shop that is said to have a connection with the governor's great-grandfather. That's the rumor that they told me anyway. I'm not sure if it... Is there any way to prove this? I don't know if there is any way to prove or disprove it. I could ask around a bit more. Yes, I heard rumors have been floating around about that. I also heard that the governor is looking to connect to his past, and something about connecting his past and the state together. I could check on that. Something about projecting a strong stately image, and well, that sounds good. I mean, I love the desk, but the governor should have a great desk, should he not? I mean, yes, he could definitely have a great desk if we managed to connect him to it. That's great. The desk should be with the governor. I mean, it's likely to be from his great-grandfather. Who doesn't want to be connected to their great-grandfather? I think I should get on the phone to the governor right now, and by that I mean, Lawrence, please get the governor on my phone. Lawrence headed for the exit. I will make sure that we have our rumors straight and that this isn't just some sort of imaginary thing that's been created, and I'll tend to my other work as necessary. Okay? Yes, please go. Go forth and do your work. Lawrence exited the office, and Alice soon followed him out, leaving Hook happily at his desk. In his joy and cheer, he accidentally touched the desk and then jerked his hand away before anything else could happen. Alice soon managed to confirm that some of the rumors were in fact true, and this led Lawrence to getting the governor on the phone and handing that phone call off to Commissioner Hook. The commissioner soon had an agreement with the governor to hand the desk over, and the rest of the day was productive, with paperwork being signed and the new desk coming from the corner to the new spot where it should be. It wasn't until the evening that Hook managed to meet up with Alice again. She stood waiting for the elevator, looking ready to leave for the day. Alice, how was the rest of your day? Uneventful. I have further improved and will have a new budget proposal for you soon. The new desk is going, right? Oh yes, the governor was most happy to hear about the desk, and the education department, despite being displeased that we were giving it away, soon came around to seeing the importance of having it with the governor. Good. With that, we can move forward to a new era in the Arts Council. The elevator soon arrived with a ding, the doors opening, and they stepped aboard. They turned and hit the button for the lobby floor, the doors soon closing. End of episode.